Let me guess, you just bought your first rental property and you're somewhere in the neighborhoods of thinking, now what? Now, before you even think about refinancing and the exit strategies and renovations, let me walk you through this 6-step simple checklist that a lot of people ignore that then in the future cost them stress. You can thank me later. The first thing that you would probably have to do, this has to happen before you even buy the property, closing, just so you know, is that have a separate bank account for your property. Now, the reason why you have it is that once it starts cash flowing, once you have income, expenses, maintenance, tickets coming on the way, it is always better to separate that expenses from your personal expenses. Now, when you do that, at the month end, when you reconcile everything, it saves you a lot of stress. It saves you a lot of time. It's the frustration part that is more annoying than the time itself. Trust me on that. Now, the second one might surprise you is that change the locks, because you have no idea how many duplicate keys that the owner had that he gave out to his random friends that he saw on a random Tuesday that he forgot about, that he didn't let you know that was a lock. But my point is, if you change the locks, the front lock, the back lock, any other master locks that are in place, you probably would be spending $100 to $150, but that will save you a lot of fear. You have no idea who has the keys. Once you do that, once you change the locks, now you know that you are the only person who has access to the building that you so dearly bought. Again, it saves you a lot of stress. The third one would be knowing the negatives of your place. Now, there is an actual reason behind it, which I'm going to get to, is that once you know the bad things that might happen. Now, bad is an overreactive term. What I mean by that is inconveniences that might occur, like the leaky faucet that you ignored before closing, like the switch that doesn't work, or the blown fuse that's on the switchboard behind the kitchen cupboard. All of that things, when you know that things on the back of your hand, when a tenant calls you 10 p.m. on a Tuesday and says, hey, this light is not working, you know to tell them that, hey, just change the fuse. You get the idea. I'm just being too literal, but the idea is that if you know what's about to break, it saves you a lot of panic at the moment, because it's always better to know what to say rather than being clueless rather than not having the slightest idea of what the tenant is talking about. Now, that leads me to point number 4. Have an army of vetted contractors. I'm talking plumbers, I'm talking about electricians, I'm talking about a general handyman. Just in case, introduce yourself, tell them you bought a rental property on this address, make sure that they live close by, make sure you know that they know what they're doing. They have a lot of good ratings. They don't overcharge you. Before you even bring somebody over to change that leaky faucet, if you have a relationship just built before that, I'm not talking go deep, just so when you call, they know that they've spoken with you before. That is all. Just establish the relationship, and then that saves you a lot of time. The reason is that it is always better to have somebody ready on the call than having to scour the entire Kijiji to get a plumber 2 a.m. on a day. It doesn't look good. Now, that leads me to the 5th point. Know the main points of the house. Just in case an emergency happens, you know where to send people to. Hey, the main shutoff wall for the water is at the backside of the basement. Just take the next right. Things like that saves you a lot of pressure, because if something goes wrong, if a pipe breaks, you need to turn the water supply off. You don't have to panic. Oh, where's that? I don't know. Now you would know. Prepare in advance so that you're prepared when something breaks or in case of an emergency. The last but not least, point number 6 is that you probably saw it coming. Find good tenants. Now, that is the 80-20 of the game. If you just solve that 20% of the entire equation, it takes care of the rest 80%. If you have good tenants that you properly vetted, you made sure that they don't have any outstanding criminal history, they didn't get evicted from their previous place because they failed on a 6-month spree of non-payment of rent, you make sure that the tenants will take care of your place just like you would, like it's their own. It saves you a lot of pressure. That is just problem solved. The rest 20%, the rest problems of the pipe leakages and the occasional problems that come with it, it is totally solvable. But if you have this one thing, finding tenant wrong, That is just a sure shot way of ensuring that you're not going to be having the slightest amount of peace for the coming 8 to 9 months. An average timing LTB takes to solve a problem. I still remember walking out of the dealership, looking out of the parking lot after buying a car and saying, okay, now I have a car. I have no idea that now what? That's the situation. So now you know what to do. The first 6 things that you probably should do after you bought your first rental property. We walk an owner through this every time they buy, or when we meet with a new property owner that's their first rental property. Now, this is something that we've seen a lot of times. Well, that was the 6 things that you probably should look into right after you buy your first rental property. And if you found this video useful, share it with somebody. My name is Eben Jason. I'm the owner of Prospera Properties here in London, Ontario. We are a new property management company specializing in helping landlords with 1 to 5 rental properties. All right, that was video 15, and I will see you in the next.